always thought that we should celebrate 25 years of Morse with a film.
I'd been working with Mammoth on Lewis, and they just said, how would you feel about Endeavour Young Morse, basically? And I thought it was a rather good idea, so...
Russell said, well, if you're going to do Young Morse, it's called Endeavour. Russell had a very clear idea of how we met Endeavour, and when Russell had formed that idea, we popped up to Oxford. We pitched the story to Colin, which he really liked. We then went out to the theatre, to the Oxford Playhouse that night, and on tour was the Inspector Morse play, was on tour in Oxford, whilst having just persuaded Colin to do Endeavour. So it's a... It's a very tightly woven, weird evening.
We had a feeling that we wanted to do a Morse prehistory, and then looked back and found that the short story that Colin had done.
The Daily Mail said, we want you to write a story, three instalments at Christmas.
A prehistory of Inspector Morse, to sort of shine a light on his younger days.
And I thought the only thing I've never done is the period about which I know more than anything else, which is those years later in school, 15 to 23 or 4.
It was just an illustration of how the great detective's mind works, really.
It was Morse going along to the pub, as he did every night, and discovering that somebody had stolen £400 from the Christmas fund.
He's very sympathetic in it, and his motives in it are altruistic. That kindness, I think, that people often miss with Morse. Oh, Grumpy Morse. He's a great one for the underdog.
If you remember anything, or even if you just want to talk, that'll find me.
Colin invented an incredible world where you almost feel safe to have murder in it.
He doesn't shy away from the darker impulses inevitably leading to murder. He looks at that straight in the eyes, head on.
When I heard they were doing a prequel to Morse, I was stunned, really, because I thought, you just can't. I mean, that is just a thing in itself.
When the news broke that we were going to do Endeavour, I think certainly from some quarters there was a sense that it was a cynical exploitation of the franchise. The first one, we wanted to make a love letter to the show. All the people involved had been there in one form or another right from the beginning with Morse.
It was a big decision to make it. It was a big leap to do. You can't be cynical at all with the audience. They smell integrity, they smell cynicism. And had that one film gone out and the audience disliked it, that was the end of it. But as it happened, they loved it, and at that point it turned into a series.
It meant everything to me that the audience took Endeavour to their hearts in such a way.
The more I thought about it, actually, it was such a great product, and my father was very, very sad to end it. So I kind of liked the idea of it coming back, and the people involved I utterly trusted, so I knew it was going to be something good.
Detective Constable Morse, City Police. I wonder if I might ask you a few questions.
For me personally, it all starts with the story. Originally, my interest had been piqued because when they called me about it, I'd read the books, so I knew who this person was when they were twice my age. And I thought, well, that's interesting to see what we can do in his late 20s, what gets him that way. Because I think the character in the books is a really interesting kind of complex, quite a sad character. And I thought, well, if there's a script which is set at my age where we're sowing the seeds for those things, then I thought that's an interesting thing.
The series itself was taken from looking at the books and very much the films.
From the writer's point of view, you felt that he was not just inside Morse, you felt he was virtually inside what everybody was saying and doing. He added a certain texture to the dialogue, which seemed so genuine somehow.
It was certainly his cadences that I was hearing and trying to apply to Endeavour's dialogue.
This predates the Mail itself. You'll need to look in Jackson's Oxford Journal.
Will I?
Well, there's nothing in the city archive nor county, I've checked. And all the Yard could come up with was an empty file in that date.
I'll see what I can do.
When might that be?
I didn't know what to call him, and Dorothy, my wife, I said, will you have a look through the Mayflower, the Christian names of everybody who went over to America? And she came across a man called Determination Davis, and another man called Endeavour Jones.
It certainly informs pretty much everything we do, that name.
It shows you a massive part of who this person is, to endeavour to try. There's something about that name which is interesting and sort of essential.
I need help! In here now! Get an ambulance now!
Building his character, it was more a case of not stripping things away, but dialing them down a little bit. Because to have him appear at the age of 25, quite as melancholy as he is by the time he gets to 45, 50, would have been absurd, really.
I think there's a lot of precursors to Morse's character in this series which explain why he becomes the man that he becomes. A man alone and a man very good at his job. All sorts of signals.
Why did he do crosswords? Where's his love of opera from? Why does he like beer? Why did he limp?
This is a man who is forming before your very eyes.
Someone not really being sure about whether this is the right place for him, but slowly as it's revealed, it is the best place for him, though perhaps not the most comfortable.
Tying in a suicide to a missing girl off the back of a single word? Well, I admit that's a bit of a stretch even by your standards.
Suspected suicide, isn't it?
I appreciate the fact that there's no one else really like him that I've seen or read about. You know, you've got this police officer who's in his mid to late 20s, who's really into classical music, into opera, is very much an intellectual and is imaginative and intuitive, yet lives amongst the day-to-day squalor of people being murdered and uses his very specific and very individual talents to bring those things together.
Wait a minute.
Alongside that you have, for the exact same reasons, someone who's kind of quite difficult to be with, I think, quite difficult to have a personal relationship with.
You're not actually serious. Unless they've confessed. Have they confessed? Morse, remember who you're speaking. Have they confessed?
Morse, a man should be big enough to admit when he's wrong.
Always they have sent the scripts to me, and by always I mean always.
He goes through every one of our scripts before we make it. He's there at the read-throughs, and he goes through it line by line the same way I do.
And post read-through, you always get scads of notes. And Collins would always be cut through everything and be right on point.
I mean, I think he's incredible. I think he's like 83 or 84 now, but it's still razor sharp intellectually.
Collins, quite deceptive, I think. He's very genial and very kind, but beneath the surface, behind those eyes, is a diabolical mind, I think.
I think Colin will be one of those people that you go, I was so lucky to work with Colin Dexter.
Serving his vision of Endeavour is hugely important to us.
It's in the contract that I'm to be given a small and brief experience in all the Morse ones, and they decided to carry this on.
He wants to be in his own work. He was in Morse, he's always been in Lewis, and we've continued it in Endeavour.
Did you have a nice Christmas?
No, it's
It's actually a brilliant thing because he started this, and so this wouldn't be here without him, so he should be involved and be a member of it, you know.
What did you say your name was?
Morse. Why?
Have we met?
I don't think so.
Another life, then?
Trying to make the public accept a different casting to play Morse. We did use a trick where he wants to leave the police force, he thinks he should give up.
Thursday says to him, what do you think you'll be doing in 20 years' time?
What you've got to ask is, where do you see yourself in 20 years?
And the mirror reflects our friend Endeavour.
And you see John Thor's eyes, that's when Barrington's famous theme creeps in, and then you realise the transformation of young rookie policeman to Endeavour Morse is complete.
And everybody said to me, what a brilliant touch that was. And I just say to everyone, I didn't even think of that.
Morse? Endeavour.
Because it's a lovely touch, isn't it?